Okay, let's look at step 2, our second principle for getting into a high level of boxing conditioning. And that is conditioning work outside of the boxing gym. And if you want to reach a high level of conditioning, you got to be doing some sort of supplemental conditioning work outside of your normal boxing routine. Okay, so we'll cover that here. One thing, if you haven't seen the first video yet, you have to watch that first, because without those principles in place, this ain't going to make a damn bit of difference. You have to learn to breathe before you even think about increasing your conditioning capacity. Okay, so sorry to get whiteboard on you again, but it's kind of like the easiest way for me to explain some of these concepts. So let's do a graph. We're going to go on the x-axis here. This will be time. And this will be 3 minutes. So that's our boxing round. On the y-axis we have work. It's going to be, you know, your work inside the ring, your punches, your blocks, your moves. Now there's going to be 100,000 different ways to attack this problem. You probably saw 100,000 different exercise prescriptions online, and a lot of them are right. This is the way I look at it, okay? If you like what you get from this, take it and run with it. If you like some of it, take what you like, get rid of the rest. Or get rid of the whole thing. But this is how I like to look at it. All right, so a boxing round looks something like this. You have this baseline of activity, and then an exchange, and then a few more exchanges, and then a real intense exchange that lasts a long time, and then comes down a little bit, and then you finish strong. Like, that might be typical, okay? Or this thing could look like this. It could be a relatively easy fight. You're kind of moving around the ring, maybe you're moving at a little bit higher pace, you have an exchange, another exchange. Couple more, rounds over. Or maybe you're fighting one of those pressure fighters, those guys that are in your chest for the whole 3 rounds, making you work, pushing up against you. You have to fight them off and move for the entire 3 minutes, and it looks like this. And if you're fighting somebody like this, you better be bringing some conditioning game into the ring, or you're going to be done in a couple rounds. All right, so what we need to do is train for all these possibilities. So let's take another look at a basic boxing round. So here, a couple exchanges, bigger exchange, another big exchange, finishing strong. Something like that, right? We want to improve the look of this profile. We want to improve the performance of it. And the way that we're able to do that is 4 ways. Number 1, we want to drop this baseline level of activity. That moving around the ring, we want that to be the least metabolically demanding as possible. We're going to accomplish that with your long runs, distance running, for time. It's important not only for improving the performance of this, but for increasing your work capacity, increasing your recuperation between workouts. I mean, if we look at this and this thing starts down here, right? We improve our level of aerobic conditioning to where this is our baseline. All of a sudden, this first peak looks like that, okay? Whereas if we don't have that level of conditioning, our exchanges might be at 90% of our work capacity. Here, we're only at like 65 or 70%. So that leaves us a lot more gas in the tank. Second thing we want to do, we want to increase the height of that peak. We want to increase the amount of intensity that we're able to put into a work, any kind of work, any kind of exchange. This isn't necessarily where you want a fight to go, but it is going to be where we want our capacity to be in case we need the fight to go to that spot. So we're going to accomplish that by working these conditioning workouts at a high intensity, like 90, 95, 100% of our work capacity, 100% of our heart rate. We need high levels of intensity. We also want this, you know, where we have that high level of capacity, but we can sustain that for a long period of time. Again, we don't want to fight there. We don't want to fight where we're at 90+% of our intensity for a prolonged amount of time, but we want the capacity to be able to do that. We're going to accomplish that by bringing that intensity level up and then keeping it up for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 60 seconds or more. Then the final component is, as soon as we're done that work, boom, we want it to fall off a cliff right back down to baseline. What we don't want is this thing to kind of take time coming down, because then when we have another exchange, instead of starting from down here, we're starting from here. And this all of a sudden goes up there. And that's way past your potential to absorb that through your conditioning. All right, so we want this thing to fall straight down. The way we're going to do that is interval training. Real high intensity for a period of time, drop it back down, try to bring that breathing under control. We don't want to be in between rounds like slow it down, deeper breaths, bring your body under control, try to settle down that heart rate, that metabolism, get it back down here before we ramp it back up again. So what does this look like, practically speaking, for a workout? Well, we need to cover all possibilities there. So a workout might be, 15 seconds on, 30 seconds off. 15 seconds on, 30 seconds off. And that 15 seconds is going to be your highest amount of work. Or it's going to be 30 seconds on, 15 seconds off. 30 seconds on, 15 seconds off. Or it's going to be 3 minutes on. Or, and use your imagination, it might be we work, start off 45 seconds on, drop it off 15 seconds, and then we finish with a couple of exchanges, and then another high level for like the last 30 seconds. Or reverse this. A couple of high pops, finished with a more extended period. I mean, this is limited by your imagination. But what you want to do is you want to be able to have high levels of intensity that then drop off quickly, or high level intensity that you're able to maintain. And so, a couple things to keep in mind with this. Number one, when we're doing this high intensity interval training, speed is going to be a primary consideration, the primary consideration. Speed and intensity. So we don't want to do something, I mean, if we're doing medicine ball throw it as far as we can and then sprint after it, we don't want to have our heaviest medicine ball. Grab a lighter medicine ball. If we're doing, maybe we're doing clean and jerks for 30 seconds on, 20 seconds off. You don't want to have your highest weights that we only get a few reps. Lighten that weight up, get higher speed, higher amount of reps. So keep the weight low, keep the speed high. Could be burpees. It could be plyometric drills, sprints. Again, use your imagination on the modality, use your imagination on what the profile looks like.